Imagine crafting a praise poem for every Shona totem, each one a unique tribute to heritage, identity, and pride. Join me as I dive into the challenges of weaving these powerful verses and uncover the deep meaning behind totems in Shona culture by the end. I greet you all, Vanasamaita, Soko, Ngara, Moyo ndizvo, Nyamziwa, Nana Maduve. The list is endless. Welcome to you all to today's episode where I'm going to talk about a subject so dear to us. You may have guessed already, indeed, it's the subject of Mitupo or totems. We all have totems and we get so excited to listen to our praise poems, madetembedzo emitupo yedu, because there is a linkage between praise, poetry, and our identity. Let's explore this linkage between our totems and Shona identity. Each totem or mutupo is associated with a praise name, chidao, which is used in formal greetings, rituals, and ceremonies. For example, the shower or errant totem is associated with the praise name Mofu. The Ngara totem associated with Wamambo. So these totems and praise names are passed down through generations, preserving the history and identity of each clan. Our forefathers recited praise poems to honor their ancestors and celebrate their clan's history. For example, the Shumba Samaita totem has poems that praise the lion's strength and the clan's roots in specific places like Marenje. These poems were a way to keep history alive and make people feel proud of their heritage. So most of you have asked me to cover your praise poems, and in response to that, I've done this video specifically to address your question. Without wasting time, let's go straight to our subject of discussion today. It's sad to say writing a praise poem is a challenging task. I know you may ask how come you've covered Soko, you've covered Ngara and Mofio Mukono totems. I did that with the help of some relatives and people of those totems that I know. So let me explain why I can't cover praise poems for every Shona totem. This is due to several factors rooted in the complexity, diversity, and cultural depth of the Shona totem system. So the challenge number one is huge numbers of totems and sub-totems. The Shona people have many totems, such as Shumba, Moyo, Soko, Mofu, Ziva, and more. Each totem has multiple sub-totems or praise names, Shidao, like Murambwe for Shumba or Chirandu for Moyo. There could be hundreds of combinations, making it nearly impossible to cover every single one. So why is it hard? Each totem and sub-totem has its own unique history, stories, and qualities. Writing a poem for each requires researching specific details about every clan's ancestry, geographic origins, and cultural significance, which is time-consuming and complex. For example, a poem for Shumba Samaita might focus on the lion's strength and a specific clan's history in Marenje, while Shumba Nyamziwa needs a different poem tied to its unique lineage. Also, another challenge is deep cultural and historical knowledge is required here. praise poems are not just words. They are rooted in the history, in the myths and values of each clan. So you need to know the stories of ancestors, places, and events tied to each totem, which are often passed down orally by elders. So it's very hard because this knowledge isn't always written down and can vary between families or regions. Without access to elders or cultural experts, you might miss key details or risk writing inaccurate poems that don't resonate with the clan. For example, a poem for Mofu Mutenesanwa might need to reference specific ancestral lands or heroic deeds, which requires deep research. So, for example, if you write a poem for the Ziwa totem without knowing its connection to water spirits or specific rivers, the poem might feel generic and lose authenticity. And also another pro challenge is oral tradition and language complexity. Praise poems are traditionally performed in Shona using poetic, old-fashioned language, which is full of metaphors, proverbs, and imagery. So crafting poems that sound authentic requires fluency in Shona and skill in poetic expression. So this is why it's hard, because if you are not fluent in Shona or familiar with its poetic styles, capturing the rhythm and depth of Netembo Mitupo will be difficult. Even native speakers may struggle to create poems that match the eloquence of traditional ones. Plus, translating these poems into English for a wider, audience can lose their cultural flavor. Another challenge is respecting cultural sensitivity. Totems are sacred to the Shona people and they are tied to ancestors and spiritual beliefs. So, writing poems that don't fully respect a totem's meaning or history could offend viewers or misrepresent their culture. So it's hard, like if you are going to write this poem, you must be careful to avoid stereotypes or generalizations, like assuming all Shona clans are the same. They also need to avoid trivializing the spiritual side, especially for viewers who see totems as deeply personal. So getting feedback from clan members or elders to ensure accuracy adds another layer of effort. For example, a poorly written poem for Sokomurewa might upset viewers if it ignores the clan's specific ancestral stories or uses inappropriate imagery. Another challenge is time and resources constraints. So creating unique, high quality praise poems for everyday totem takes a lot of time, research, and creativity. E- Especially if you are running a YouTube channel like I'm doing, you may not have the necessary resources to dedicate to such a massive project. And it's hard because researching each totem could involve interviewing elders, reading rare books, or traveling to different parts of Zimbabwe to learn clan histories. So, for a single person or a small team, this is a huge task, especially while balancing other content creation demands like filming, editing, and posting regularly. For example, writing just one poem might take hours of research and writing, and with dozens of totems, the project could take years without a team of funding. And the other challenge is diversity within clans. Even within the same totem, different families or regions have unique stories, praise names, or traditions of unique poems, which is overwhelming. For example, a poem for Moyo Barozi might focus on their role in the Rose Empire, while Moyo Dewa might need reference to different ancestors or places requiring separate poems. Another challenge is limited documentation. Much of the knowledge about totems and their praise poems comes from oral tradition, not written records. Some totems, especially smaller or less common ones, may have little documented information. So it is hard, to write them without access to elders or cultural archives. A creator might struggle to find enough details to write poems for rare totems like Gudo, baboon, or Shiribet. This lack of information can lead to incomplete or inaccurate poems, which could disappoint viewers. For example, writing a poem for a less known totem like Nzo, elephant, might be hard if there are fewer elders who know its specific praise names or history. In short, writing praise poems for every Shona totem is difficult because of the sheer number of totems, the need for deep cultural knowledge, the complexity of Shona poetic language, and the time and resources required. Cultural sensitivity, varying clan histories, and limited documentation add to the challenge, especially for me as I am aiming to engage a diverse audience. So, with all that said, let's explore Mitupo totems so that we know more about them and also to find out if they are still relevant in today's world. To start with, what are Mitupo? What are totems? In Shona culture, a totem is a special symbol that identifies a clan or group of people who share a common ancestor. The plural for form is Mitupo. These symbols are often animals like lions, zebras, or elands, but they can also be plants, body parts like the heart, or natural elements like water, ziva. Each clan has its own totem, and within that totem, there are smaller branches called zvidau, which are praise names to show differences between sub-clans. For example, people with the Shumba totem might use praise names like Murambwe or Nyamudziwa to show they come from different family lines. Totems are very important because they connect people to their ancestors, guide social rules, and create a sense of belonging. They've been part of Shona culture since ancient times, especially during the days of Great Zimbabwe, a powerful kingdom that existed from the 11th to the 15th century. Which brings us to this question: how did totems begin? Who started Mitupo among the Shona people of Zimbabwe? This is not an easy question to answer because the origins of Mitupo or totems among the Shona people are not attributed to a single individual, but rather developed over generations as a social and cultural system. The introduction of totems is very important because it's linked to ancient history of the Shona people. So the exact time when Mitupo were introduced by the Shona people is not precisely documented, as it predates written records, meaning Mitupo were not written down, as Shona history was passed down orally through stories and songs. However, the practice of using totems is deeply rooted in Shona culture and is believed to have been established during the early stages of their settlement in the region, likely during the early Iron Age, that is around 300 to 1000 CE, or even earlier, as part of their Bantu heritage. So totems were likely introduced during the formative period of Shona society when clans were being established and social structure were being formalized. This period would have been marked by the need to recreate systems of identity, kinship, and governance, which totems effectively provided. Also, I want to bring to your attention that the use of totems is a widespread practice among many Bantu speaking groups in Africa, and the Shona likely adopted and adapted this tradition as part of their cultural development. However, historians and elders believe totems started for several reasons tied to the Shona's ancient way of life. Animistic beliefs. The Shona had an animistic worldview, meaning they believed that animals, plants, and natural elements had spirits. A clan might choose a totem like a lion or an eagle because they admitted its qualities such as courage or wisdom. These qualities reflected what the clan valued or how they saw themselves. For example, the shower totem linked to the eland was chosen by the Vahera people because the eland symbolized resourcefulness and survival. Spiritual and ancestral connection. The Shona people believed in a strong connection between the living and their ancestors. They thought ancestral spirits lived in certain animals, plants, or natural elements. For example, a clan might choose a lion as their totem because they believed their ancestor spirits were connected to the lion's strength and bravery. By adopting these symbols, clans honored their ancestors and felt protected by them. So totems became a way to keep a spiritual link with their forefathers who were seen as guides and protectors. Totems served as a way to honor ancestors and maintain a connection to the spiritual world. Each totem was associated with a specific ancestor or founding figure of the clan. The practical survival element. Some totems may have come from the need to survive in ancient times. Clans chose animals or plants that were important to their survival. For example, a clan that relied on fishing might choose a fish eagle, Ngwe, as their totem to honor its skill in catching fish. Others might pick a strong animal like a lion, Shumba, to show their bravery in hunting or war. These choices reflected the clan's way of life and the qualities they wanted to pass down to the future generations. Bantu migration. The Shona are part of the Bantu people who migrated across Africa thousands of years ago. As they moved and settled in what is now Zimbabwe, different groups formed clans to stay organized. Totems helped these groups stand out from each other. Some historians suggest that the earliest Shona clans, like the Soko or Monkey and Dziva water groups, were the first to use totems, and other clans created new ones as they split off. The Bantu migration also brought similar totem practices to neighboring groups. Great Zimbabwe, and ancient kingdoms. Totems became very important during the time of Great Zimbabwe, 11th to 15th centuries. A powerful Shona kingdom known for its stone buildings, clans used totems to show their loyalty to the kingdom and their unique place in society. For example, the Moyo clan was linked to the Roji dynasty, which ruled after Great Zimbabwe. Totems helped organize the kingdom's social structure, making it easier to govern and manage resources. They also gave clans a way to celebrate their history through praise names and poetry. Historians say by the time of the Great Zimbabwe civilization, totems were already a well-established part of Shona's culture. Great Zimbabwe was a center of political and economic power, With a well-organized social hierarchy, the presence of totems during this period suggests that Shona had already developed a sophisticated kinship system that played a crucial role in governance, social identity, and inheritance. Archaeological evidence and oral traditions indicate that the society within Great Zimbabwe was stratified, with rulers and different social groups likely distinguished by their totems. The totemic system helped unify extended families and provided a sense of belonging among members of the civilization. Furthermore, Mitupo served as a means of regulating marriage to prevent incest and promote alliances between different clans. So, by the time of Great Zimbabwe speak, totems were not only markers of lineage but also instruments of social cohesion and identity among the Shona people. They shaped how people interacted, married, and lived together. So here I'm going to give you some key ways totems were used. Social organization and bonding. Totems provided a system of social organization, helping to distinguish between different family lineages and clans within the broader Shona society. Also, totems were a way to organize society and build relationships. They created a system where people knew their roles and responsibilities. For example, during ceremonies like funerals or weddings, people with the same totem were expected to help each other even if they were strangers. This made communities stronger and encouraged cooperation. Totems also inspired praise poetry, netembo Mitupo, where clans recited poems to honor their totem and history, boosting pride and confidence. Clan identity and unity. Totems helped identify different clans in ancient Shona society. During the time of Great Zimbabwe and other kingdoms like Mutapa and Roji, the Shona people were organized into clans based on shared ancestry. Each clan had a unique totem to show who they were and where they came from. For example, the Moyo clan, known for building the Roji Empire, used to the hearts as their totem to symbolize life and strength. Totems gave clans pride and a sense of belonging, uniting people across villages and regions. Also, totems were for preventing incest and they were there for social rules. One of the biggest roles of totems was to prevent incest, which means marriage or relationships between close relatives. So in Shona culture, people with the same totem were considered family, even if they were not closely related by blood. For example, two people with the Moyo heart totem cannot marry because they are seen as siblings sharing the same ancestral lineage. So this rule helped keep families strong and avoided harmful practices. It also created a sense of unity as people with the same totem saw each other as part of a bigger family. Also, totems were there for social rules and morals. So totems set rules for behavior. Besides preventing incest, they encouraged respect and kindness. For example, the Shona value unu, humanity or ubuntu. And totems reminded people to care for others in their clan, especially those with the same totem. So this created a sense of responsibility and community. Also, family ties across distance. As Shona people moved or migrated, totems helped them find family in new places. For example, someone with the Soko monkey totem could meet another Soko person in a different village and treat them like a sibling, even if they were not blood relatives. This was especially important during ceremonies like funerals, where kinsmen with the same totem had special roles. conservation of nature. Totems also played a role in protecting the environment. Shona culture teaches that you cannot eat or harm your totem animal. For example, if your totem is zebra or mbizi, you must protect zebras and not hunt them. This belief helped preserve certain animals and plants in specific areas, as clans saw their totems as sacred. This was a clever way to manage wildlife and maintain balance in nature, showing the Shonas respect for their environment. So let's look at totems today. Even today, totems remain important in Shona culture despite changes brought by Christianity and modern life. Many Shona people still identify with their totems and use praise names to show respect, especially to elders. For example, someone with the moth totem might be called Mutene Sanwa or Chera during greetings. Totems are also used in ceremonies, in songs, in poetry to celebrate Shona heritage. However, in cities or among younger generations, some people may not follow totem traditions as strictly, especially if they are strongly Christian. Still, totem continue to be a source of pride and identity for many. So the next thing I'm going to do is to look at frequently asked questions and answers about totems or Mitupo. One of the questions people ask is, what exactly is a totem and why is it so important to the Shona people? A totem or Mitupo is a symbol, usually an animal, plant, or natural element that represents a Shona clan's identity and connection to their ancestors. For example, a clan might have a lion or heart moyo as their totem. It's important because it unites families, prevents incest by stopping people with the same totem from marrying, and honors ancestors who guide and protect the clan. It's like a badge that shows who you are and where you come from in Shona culture. How did the Shona people choose their totems? The Shona chose totems based on their beliefs and way of life in ancient times. They believed ancestors' spirits lived in animals or plants, like a lion for strength or a fish eagle for fishing skills. Some totems came from admiring an animal's qualities, like the courage or wisdom. Others were chosen because they were important for survival, like animals they hunted or relied on. Over time, as clans grew during migration or in kingdoms like Great Zimbabwe, they picked unique totems to stand out. Are totems still used in Zimbabwe today? Yes, totems are still very important in Shona culture today, especially in rural areas and during ceremonies like weddings or funerals. People use their totems and praise names like Mofu or Soko to show respect and identity. In cities or among younger people, some may not follow totem traditions as much because of modern life or Christianity, but many still take pride in their totems as a link to their heritage. Why can't people with the same totem marry? In Shona culture, people with the same totem like Mbizi, Zebra, or Shawa are considered family, even if they are not closely related. Marrying someone with the same totem is seen as incest, which is harmful to families and communities. This rule started in ancient times to keep bloodlines healthy and strengthen social bonds by encouraging marriage between different clans. How do totems connect to Great Zimbabwe? Great Zimbabwe was a powerful Shona kingdom from the 11th to 15th centuries, and totems were a big part of its society. Clans used totems to show their identity and loyalty to the kingdom. For example, the Moyo clan linked to the Roji dynasty used the heart totem to symbolize life and strength. Totems helped organize the kingdom's social structure, making it easier to govern and unite people. Do other African cultures have totems like the Shona? Yes, many African cultures have similar totem systems. The Shona are part of the Bantu people who spread across Africa long ago. Groups like the Ndebele in Zimbabwe, Venda in South Africa, and Tonga in Zambia also use totems to show clan identity and connect to ancestors. While the animals or symbols might differ, the idea of using totems to unite families and guide social rules is common in many Bantu cultures. Can someone have more than one totem? In Shona culture, each person has one main totem, Mitupo, inherited from their father's side, like Shumba or Ziva. However, clans often have sub-totems or praise names, Zvidao, like Murambwe for some Shumba people, to show smaller family branches. So you don't have multiple totems, but your totem can have special names that make your family line unique. How do totems help protect nature? Shona people believe you must respect and protect your totem animal or plant. For example, if your totem is a zebra mbizi, you can't hunt or eat zebras. This rule helped preserve wildlife in ancient times because each clan protected their totem. It was a smart way to care for the environment and keep a balance with nature, showing the Shonas respect for their surroundings. What happens if someone breaks a totem rule, like eating their totem animal? Breaking a totem rule, like eating your totem animal, is considered disrespectful to your ancestors and clan. In traditional Shona beliefs, this could bring bad luck, illness, or misfortune because it angers the ancestral spirits. Elders might require a cleansing ceremony to restore balance. However, in modern times, not everyone follows these rules strictly, especially in urban areas. How can I find out my Shona totem if I don't know it? To find your Shona totem, start by asking your parents, grandparents, or elders in your family, as totems are passed down through the father's side. They might know your Mitupo like Moyo or Soko and any praise names. Now, if you are unsure, you can ask or talk to community elders or cultural experts in Zimbabwe who can help trace your clan's history. Knowing your totem connects you to your Shona roots. Why do some totems have praise names, Zvidao? Praise names or Zvidao are like nicknames for a totem that show a clan's unique history or qualities. For example, someone with the Moyo totem might be called Chirandu or Mutene Sanwa. These names often come from stories about ancestors, places, or traits like bravery or wisdom. They are used in greetings, ceremonies, and poetry to honor the clan and make each family line special. Where can I learn more about Shona totems? To learn more, talk to Shona elders or cultural leaders in Zimbabwe who share stories and histories. You can also read books on Shona culture like those by Zimbabwean historians or visit cultural sites like Great Zimbabwe. Online, check out reputable websites or forums about Shona traditions. If you are in Zimbabwe, museums or cultural festivals are great places to explore totems and their stories. So my final say about Shona totems or Mitupo. While the exact date of the introduction of Mitupo among the Shona people is unknown, it is clear that the practice has ancient origins, likely dating back to the early stages of their settlement in Zimbabwe. Totems were introduced as a way to organize society, regulate marriage, and honor ancestors, and they remain a vital part of Shona cultural identity to this day. The tradition of Mitupo reflects the Shona people's deep connection to their ancestry, land, and spiritual beliefs. The totems of the Shona people are a powerful link to their ancient history, starting from the days of Great Zimbabwe and earlier. They began a way to honor ancestors, organize society, prevent incest, and protect nature, rooted in spiritual beliefs and practical needs. Totems helped the Shona build strong communities and a unique identity. Today, they remain a vital part of Shona culture, reminding people of their roots and the values of unity, respect, and pride passed down through generations. We've come to the end. If you enjoyed today's episode, like, share, and subscribe.